Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mental Roots podcast. This is season 2, episode 12, and I am Nathan Aday, animator, podcaster, interviewer, I guess you could say journalist, basically all-round media enthusiast who uses media to push this Mental Roots movement forward. So this is the Mental Roots podcast, but Mental Roots is bigger than this podcast. There's also a film aspect to Mental Roots as well. When I say film, I specifically animation, which is my main thing. So we're still building the Mental Roots brand and movement, and the podcast is the main way we're doing that right now. So please help us spread this movement. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, share with people you know who would benefit from this. Mental Roots is all about destigmatizing mental health issues and different things contributing to mental health in the Black community, and even more specifically in young Black men. So yeah, this is part 2, as you can see from the title of this episode, part 2 of my chat with Joy Larkin. If you haven't heard part 1, go straight there, hear what Joy's story is in being a young Black American woman who has navigated narcissism in her life, has been in, and part 1 is amazing, just kind of very brave of her to get into kind of the narcissistic abuse she's experienced within her family, but also in a relationship she was in her early years. So very eye-opening stuff, and it obviously brings the context to what she discusses in part 2, which is more kind of talking about what she does now, her counseling of people who have experienced narcissistic abuse or are people who are being narcissistic. So, you know, looking at the layers behind why people have these kind of narcissistic tendencies. They're not bad people. It's more complex than them being bad people, but it all comes from a place of trauma and hurt and loads of different things that we unpack in last episode and this episode. So without much further ado, let's get into it. Part 2 of my chat with Joy. Let's go. Okay. So with all that being said, you know, all the multiple layers of the obstacles that we have, and just in general, but also especially as Black people. So what helped you get out of that? You know, and I guess an interesting thing to look at is what stopped you from continuing the cycle of narcissism? Because a typical person in your shoes could have said, oh, well, if that's how people want to treat me, then let me also, you know, keep myself safe and, you know, you know, like I've been through a lot. Now, if I let someone else experience what I've experienced, that will make things fair. So I don't know. There's multiple ways it could have gone. So how did you progress from that? What helped you actually get onto a restorative path of actually saying, I want to stop this cycle? And yeah, just kind of take us through that turning point.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I just felt like I didn't want to hurt anybody. Although I was hurt, I was in a lot of pain, a lot of depression, and really not knowing where to go, not knowing where to turn to. I just said, I don't want to do that to anybody else, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, sorry, I'll correct myself. I mean, like, it could also be the case where obviously you're not trying to perpetuate it, but you still end up doing it because it's all you know. So there is that as well, which I guess is a more popular scenario.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But just understanding that, I just took it upon myself. I said, for one, I wanted to know why I did attract narcissist relationships. I wanted to find out what was the core issue, the root problem. And once I could figure that out, I could be able to do my inner work, do my inner healing, and focus on just being a better person. And, you know, if anyone else was interested, I could help them do the same. Because my thing is, I'm like, I don't want to help anybody that doesn't want to help themselves. I'm that my coaching, I'm very like, you got to want this for yourself, you know.
Yeah.
That's how I am. But as far as like what helped me to stop that cycle, yeah, I just told myself, like, I want better for myself. I want better relationships. I want happier relationships, and I want to
Mm.
have peace in my life. And I decided that for myself, regardless of what happened to me. I guess like I just owned up to my own mistakes, and I owned up to what I was doing wrong and what I was contributing, because it's like you said earlier, we can't really blame everything on the narcissist. We have accountability and we have responsibility in that relationship. So you gotta own up to your mistakes and own up to your growth and your improvement and rebuilding your life. You have to do that for yourself. No one else can do it for you. We got to do it for ourselves.
I hear you. So from that, kind of get into how you started doing the coaching, because it's one thing to learn for yourself and to empower yourself, but then how do you try and go from that to saying, actually, I want to help other people and actually doing it? And so now we're getting past you're in your early 20s. I guess, is there an intersection with what your career goals are as well? Like, career wise, do you see this is something I really want to invest like my professional life in doing? And kind of what was your journey through that? Did you do like a course in university or anything like that to qualify you? What was that journey like, becoming a professional coach? And then from that, we'll start talking about the people that you've been coaching.
Yeah, so to be honest, it was really just the experience that I had. I spoke about what I went through. I do have, the university education and general studies, academic studies, and all that, but I didn't go to school to be a coach.
Mm,
But I based my coaching off of what I went through. I was very authentic with it, and I
okay.
still am. I never hold back like what happened to me. Before, I was very scared to speak about what I went through, because I thought people were going to think that I was stupid
Hmm.
for, staying so long in a relationship that was toxic and negative.
So,
I
so
was
were
just,
there any individuals or anything that encouraged you to be honest? Because I feel like, especially as Black people, it is it's hard because you want to see someone like you, who's a positive role model and being vulnerable, which, as you've mentioned, is a big struggle for a lot of us. And I know were referring to the US context, but as you may hear in the podcast when you get the chance, it's very similar in the UK as well. So, in terms of the taboo of talking about our vulnerabilities and admitting our weaknesses, because either we it just is so painful to look at ourselves in the mirror, or we're afraid that, in a society where we're the minority, if we become honest and vulnerable, will that will that be used against us in kind of wider society? So yeah, I guess, did you have any role models that helped you, inspired you to be like, hey, there's power in my vulnerability? Or if it wasn't an individual, maybe, I don't know, anything.
yeah. You know, I previously, like I said, I did research on narcissistic abuse, and I had seen a few videos where people kind
Mm,
of shared their story and talked about what they went through, but no one really said, like, Joy, if you speak out about dealing with narcissism, it could not only help you, but it would help other people. No one really said that to me. I think
mm,
for me, again, I was in so much pain,
yeah.
and I felt like nobody really understood it. And nobody could really, although, I had very good support system as friends. They
Hmm.
were very sweet people, and I'm still friends with them to this day, 10 plus years.
Yeah.
But they didn't go through it. So it's like, it's kind of difficult. Like, they can hear me out all
Yeah.
day, but it's like, if they haven't experienced it, then you don't really know. So
Yeah.
for me, I was just like, you know what? Well, since I'm in so much pain and I'm dealing with this, let me see, like, if someone else has
Hmm.
gone through this, maybe it
Right.
can help them in some way, or
Mm.
maybe we can find commonality or something. I don't know. I was just, I forgot about what other people thought. It didn't matter to me anymore. I was just like, you know what? I just need to get this out there, because
Hmm.
it can definitely help somebody else. And what's crazy is there was one video in particular called The Narcissist Has a New Girlfriend and a New Supply. That video actually went viral, and I was not expecting that. And I was like,
Wow.
wait, people actually care. They actually experienced and they appreciated that I spoke out about my story, because that was my fear. I was like, what are people thinking? How are they going to view me? But I was like, that doesn't matter.
Mm,
And I thought about more so just the impact, because I know how difficult it can be to deal with narcissists and overcoming that. And I was like, I overcame this, so I can help someone else do the same.
mm,
But like I said, it was just the experience that I overcame. And the people that I coach now, it has been very rewarding and very fulfilling. Like I said, I have men and female clients, and it's the same thing, same story. But it just, each individual person has a different story, and
mm,
they cope with things and they heal differently, and it's understandable. And I get it, because it wasn't easy for me to heal. It wasn't easy for me to cope. But
mm,
with patience and forgiveness and understanding and being gentle with myself, loving on myself, and just being there by myself, not rushing off and being with someone else,
mm,
because that's never the solution. You got to feel the feelings inside of yourself being by yourself, right? And in other cases, just depends on the individual. You might have to, I'd say, like, grieve with someone else, but just if you're strong enough, you have to sit with yourself and sit with those feelings of sadness and worthlessness and feeling like, depressed, or like feeling like you made a mistake, or whatever those feelings are coming up for me. You have to sit with that, so that way they can dissolve and you can heal through that. But um yeah,
mm,
that was pretty much what I had to go through. But yeah,
mm,
the people that I coach, it's rewarding. It definitely helped me to heal too, because I'm like, okay, I can help them through it, then not only I could heal myself as well. So that was the process for me.
mm. Okay, cool. So, that's powerful. Let's get into kind of the people you have been coaching. Firstly, how long have you been doing your coaching for?
Yeah, I have been coaching since 2016.
Okay, so about is it 5 years now or nearly
Yeah,
five
5 years.
years?
Yeah. Mhm.
So in that 5 years, yeah, just kind of take us through how it's been. What is the range of people that you've worked with? What's the age range? What's the ethnic range? And just kind of, are there any trends that you're seeing in terms of how certain people have dealt with these issues? And yeah, I guess mainly, you know, sex um and race, how have are there any kind of trends you're seeing in terms of how,
Um,
yeah,
I would
or it's a
say
bit too mixed to say.
it's I would mix the same. I'd say most of my audience are women.
Mm,
Women.
yeah, it makes sense.
I Yeah, and I do get some men that reach out, and I'm grateful for that too, because like I said, I know that a lot of men are programmed not to reach out for help and not to explore their emotions or explore their feelings, so I'm always grateful for that. And definitely have some young adults as well, some teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it in that case.
Mm.
And yeah.
Do you typically get a range of ethnicities as well, or?
Um, I would say most have been Black.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of people, I think they were actually, one was from, she from the Australia? One was from Australia. I think another one was from the US.
Okay.
But yeah. And I also there was one Hispanic girl that had reached out to me. This was a while back, because
Mm,
my coaching business is funny, because like when I first started out, I didn't think of like coaching people. I just was like expressing my story. I didn't think I was going to be doing this.
yeah.
But then I thought, like, okay, so like I have so much experience. I've done so much research. I know that I can, help somebody cope through this, because I've done it myself.
Mm,
And so, like, I'll tell you, when I would say 2016, I made videos. I think I'd say 2017 was when I started to coach, like
Okay.
coach. In 2018, there was a period in my life where I think I kind of like fell back a little bit. I kind of went into a stage where I had to learn another life lesson. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like on it like how I should have been. But then 2019, um, it started to pick back up a little bit. I wasn't really focused on it like that, but I would tell you 2020 and 2021 have been where my coaching has really grown, in a big
I can
way,
imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah. So it's definitely been a journey, even in my coaching business,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but I'm very, confident that it will continue to grow. And I'm actually also exploring opening up a yoga studio to get certified in doing yoga
Mm.
training. Well, teaching people how to do yoga, because I feel like not only will I help and guide people to heal emotionally and mentally and psychologically, but the physical part I think is great too.
Mm.
And it was actually an idea. Someone suggested that to me, but I was like, that would be really cool to have like a yoga studio. We'll do yoga, but we'll also talk about narcissism for those that wanted to hear that. We can talk about how to avoid it, what to look out for, and also talk about building healthy relationships, because that's what we all want at the end of the day. So,
Mm. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Before we continue, I just want to share with you something very briefly, something that's really been helping me with my concentration and productivity with all the work I've been doing, finishing uni, finishing the first two Mental Roots short films, which I can't wait to share with you. All of that stuff, in addition to the podcast, needs some high level concentration and motivation, especially during a pandemic. So if you're a busy guy like me, you've got loads of things going on and you want something that can boost your productivity, I highly recommend some natural caffeine energy shots that I've been using, which you can mix with tea or water or whatever you want. It's got a nice rich raspberry flavor packed with vitamins and really good natural caffeine, which doesn't give you the crash and high calories like a lot of high caffeine drinks that are commercially sold. So if you want to order those shots for yourself and see how they can help you, then check out the link in the written description for this episode on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And if you want to let me know personally how they help you when you do order them and try them for yourself, then message me at my personal Instagram page, which is at Nath_a day. So if you're watching on YouTube, it is right here on the screen. You can see it for yourself. But if you're just listening on a podcast platform, it is at NATH_ADDAI. Message me there to find out more about that product and any other products that I've been using, because I've been using other products as well as different workout techniques and things to help improve my physical health, which in turn improves my mental health. So thanks for listening. Let's get back into the episode. Enjoy. So in terms of the people you've counseled, what were the main kind of what were the main kind of causes for, or the main kind of trend in terms of the backstories behind their experiences of narcissism? So were a lot of them romantic situations, or was there a variation of family situations? And what the people who were emotionally abusing them, what were their backstories? Why did they do that? Like, kind of, are there any kind of trends that you've seen in that?
yeah, there are trends. I would say most of them have been romantic relationships. There were a
Mm.
few that had family members that were abusive, so like parents or aunts or uncles, that kind of stuff. So I would say that.
Mm.
But yeah, mainly the romantic side. And I would say that the people that were abusing them, they had traumatic and toxic upbringings and relationships and that
Mm.
kind of stuff. So
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I think another interesting thing as well is, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like within the black community, I think we've already said this already, but it could be harder to identify narcissistic behavior, especially in black parents. And
Yeah.
not to, I don't know what it's like in the US, but I know in the UK there's quite there's quite a lot of African immigrants, and I know of a few friends, and I've seen online as well, and it's yeah, just hearing stories from other young black people. They tell stories of how their African parents. It's very easy for them to fall in the trap of these very harsh comments, and they say it's in the name of love. This is I'm trying to grow you into someone who does well in life, and all of these traditions are in a sense taken from Africa, where at least according to Western standards the parents are very harsh, but they say it's in the name of love. It's like, come on, you only got 90%. What happened to the other 10%? All how does a a young black person decipher between a narcissistic parent, but also a parent, but between that, but then a parent who may be stricter than their white counterparts' parents, but it is genuinely coming from a place of love. And like how does one decipher that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I would say you got to look at like the intensity of like what they are saying and doing and how frequently they're doing it. And if they're doing it in a way where it's harmful, it's making you feel upset, and if they're doing it, they're like nitpicking and belittling you, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Or if you feel where it's kind of messing with your self-esteem, I guess, and your self-worth. If you feel that in any way, you might want to like kind of question it. But it's like if they only do it like every so often, or if they apologize and say, hey, I came off kind of harsh, I'm sorry about that,
mm,
if they acknowledge it. But if they're not acknowledging it and they're just constantly doing it like back to back, then it might be a narcissist.
mm.
So
And how do we, as people who can be affected by narcissists, how do we help them? And is there a link between helping ourselves and helping them? It's like, because again, like we've said, there's various roots and reasons why people, are manipulative in their behavior. Because again, there's a hole in their identity. Someone hasn't satisfied them. They still feel a sense of helplessness, and in the form of identity crisis. So, as someone who is a victim of that, like, how do you cope with that in a way where you you acknowledge that they're someone going through pain, and you do want the best for them, but at the same time you do have to protect yourself? Kind of, maybe also based on your experience and how you've counseled people, how do we balance that?
So you're saying how to balance if you are dealing with a narcissist, or if you're
Mm.
dealing with someone that has dealt with a narcissist.
So I mean, no, dealing with a narcissist,
Okay.
how, like, it, because I think it can be complicated. Like, you can
Mhm.
still love that person even though
Mhm.
they're narcissistic. Again,
Okay,
in
I see
most
what you.
cases, a family situation, for example,
Yeah.
like, as you grow and develop, you realize, oh, they are behaving this way because they've experienced XYZ.
Yeah.
So how do you try and still keep a healthy relationship with them, whilst also still taking the precautions you need to take so that you protect your own mental health?
Yeah, I would say if you feel like, I mean, if it's a family member or even if a romantic partner,
Mm,
acknowledge it, accept it. If that's something that you want to deal with, then you might just have to put up boundaries with that individual, and and maybe not interact with them as much,
mm,
because like you said, you have to protect your own mental health, and you don't want to be affected by that, or have any influence by that narcissistic person. Like
mm,
myself, on my end, when I dealt with my aunt, I had to just go no contact. Like I just had to stop talking to her. But
mm,
I don't even know if she loves me. She said
Mm,
that she did, but it definitely showed otherwise.
mm,
So I can't really speak on that, but
yeah.
I would just say you got to do what's best for you at the end of the day. You know, if you
Mm,
love that person, you can't love a person into changing for the better. You know what I mean? Like they have to want it for themselves,
mm,
you know?
yeah.
So, but just protect yourself. That's what I'd say. Just protect yourself. And if it's a parent, just do things to maybe you can move out eventually. You don't
Mm,
have to be depending on them all the time, you know? You have
mm,
to work on being self-reliant, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, maybe just final thoughts. It would be nice to know, like, just in general during COVID, with everything that's been happening, not just with general well-being, but also looking at what's happening in society in terms of an awakening of racism, and
mm,
this more kind of candid dialogue that's happening across the world now about um, just the trauma that comes with black experiences. For you, what have you learned about yourself and your own mental health? And I guess, yeah, like what advice would you give generally in terms of how you've tried to deal with your mental health and what's been working for you?
that's a great question. My mental health, with everything going on in the world, I try to keep positive as much as I can. I try to listen to people that are, you know, they acknowledge what is happening in the world and acknowledge the mental health and the fact how racism does have an impact, especially on Black people. But they look for solutions, meaning, for one, educating yourself on racism so that way you know what you're dealing with, but also you have to learn how to interact with those kind of people that are racist.
Mm,
So just educating myself and knowing that, hey, I'm a victim of this, but I don't have to like be down on myself about it. It's like, you know what I mean?
mm,
So knowing my worth, knowing that I am a descendant of God, you know,
mm-hmm.
indulging in spirituality, praying, and, you know, knowing that God is protecting me, you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Are you
But
Christian, by the way, just out of interest?
I'm actually not, but
Okay.
I'm a very spiritual person. I actually grew up
Okay.
in a Christian home. I
Yeah.
well grew up in
Yeah.
a
Easy.
church.
Yeah.
But I have a really, really great relationship with God. You know, I talk to him every day, talk to him every night, you know, and having that relationship with God definitely helps my mental health because, you know, sometimes it's funny. I admit I do talk to myself, but
Mm,
when I talk to myself, I'm saying, okay, God, well, when I'm going out and about in the world, I'm like, well, thank you for helping me to have peace of mind. Thank you for helping me to have no thoughts in my head when I go to this store or that place or whatever. So I'm always like in control of like what I'm like telling God, if that makes sense. So like
mm-hmm.
I'm at ease, I'm at peace, and I know what's going on out there in the world, but I don't let it affect me, if that makes sense. Because
Mm-hmm.
I did have that issue where, you know, if you turn on the news, all kinds of stuff is going on, right? But I say, okay, God, this is God's universe. He's in control of all this. So if that's happening, he permitted it. I don't know what the reasoning was. It may not
Mm,
look good on the outside, but he knows in the end, you know. So I that's what really helps my mental health is the relationship that I have with God.
mm-hmm.
Um you know, and like I said, just finding that positive influence, whether it's people that I hang out with or stuff I can look on YouTube or support groups and stuff like that, or just writing stuff out, you know, how I'm feeling for the day, just doing a daily check-in and
Mm-hmm.
being grateful for my life, being grateful for being alive. You know, some people didn't wake up. I did,
Yep.
you know, so it's like I have a new start every day, you know. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's no secret that I am a Christian as well. For me, it's not because, yeah, of course, I was raised that way, but obviously, I know I have a choice as to what I believe. I don't have to just believe something just because I was brought up that way. With all that being said, with a lot of deep thinking, using my logic, looking at historical evidence for the faith, there's a lot of strong reason to be a follower of Jesus in from my experience. And I've done a few interviews in the podcast, mainly with, there's a guy called Paul Kazadi and RT Hines. I did a conversation with those two, so you can check that out in the podcast. We talked a lot about the faith and the link between that and how, as young black men, that's helped our identity and to, yeah, just have a healthy kind of self-identity. So for me, what gives security, in terms of kind of a positive mindset and looking after myself mentally as well as spiritually, is the word of God, and knowing that there's a fixed kind of word of God that I can come back to. Because it's great that, you know, you can, just the emotional release of praying to God, you know, it's, I can see there's a therapeutic effect in that way. But what gives me even more security is that, like, it's concrete, it's there in writing. Like, I can look in the Bible, I can look at scriptures like, you know, Psalms 55 verse 22, cast your burden on the Lord and he will sustain up and uphold you, you know. And all the, you know, so for me, it's like kind of, I have that kind of concrete thing to rely on as well. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you hit the head of the nail there in terms of looking at deeper ways of, you know, thinking about your purpose, why you're here. You know, you're not just a coincidence, you are here for a reason. And the fact that you're alive for a reason is evidence in of itself that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it is worth, you know, still making positivity out of a negative situation. So yeah, I think we can end there. Just let people know where you are on social media, how you do your coaching. If people wanted to, you know, to know more about your coaching or find out more about it, then you can give some examples, maybe even say, you know, the credentials that you have to kind of like how you were able to do your coaching, maybe if there was any course you did, or just like how, yeah, you know, if any credentials you have. And then if you have any final words of advice, you can leave that as well.
Yeah, so social media is all Live Narc Free. My Instagram is livenarcfree.llc. My website is www.livenarcfree.com. But yeah, as I said, my credentials has been my experience. Like I said, dealing with my aunt for 5 years, her being a narcissist, and dealing with the male narc that I dated for 4
Yeah.
years.
And the
And
reputation you've built as well with your video
yes,
content. And yeah.
right. Yeah, you guys could they could follow me on YouTube at Live Narc Free, and I have testimonials on my website, support session testimonials of, you know, how it went. If anybody wants to reach out, I would love to hear from you guys and support you in any way. I have many video and audio courses that help you and guide you on how to overcome narcissistic abuse. As I said, I have the support sessions just if anybody needs a listening ear. Also, my 90-day coaching program, I have 2 of them. One is called Overcome Narcissistic Abuse, where I guide you on how to overcome dealing with a narcissist and turning your pain into power, which has been, you know, an experience like this, which has caused you a lot of pain, how to turn it into your power, turn it into your passion and something, because you can heal after dealing with a painful situation, and how to help other people do the same. And if you guys wanted to reach out to me for any coaching or video and audio courses or any support sessions, you can visit my website or you can hit me up via social media. But last minute words of advice is don't hesitate to reach out, seek support, know that you're not alone, you know. Sorry, my cat is looking at something and playing with something, but yeah, you can overcome a difficult situation, you know, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And trust your intuition.
Nice. Thank you very much for your time, Joy. And I hope you guys listening have gained value from that. Okay. So that is the end of my chat with Joy. Really cool. And I've seen Joy's website with the Live Not Free stuff, and looking really good, looking really professional. Definitely inspiring for me as an entrepreneur, someone who wants to build my own thing as well. So seeing how she's been independently managing her own business with this Live Not Free brand is quite inspiring, I'm not gonna lie. So obviously we're gonna keep in contact. Joy, if you're watching, thank you for contributing and being so honest, like sharing all these candid stories of, you know, how you've been dealing with narcissism and how you've been helping people, you know. So guys, like she said at the end of our interview, you know, she's got the different platforms she's on, the 90-day thing and all of that. You know, go and check out her social media. Her details are on the screen right now. Follow her on Instagram, check out her website, and feel free to contact her as well if you have more kind of questions or words you want to share. If you've experienced narcissism, or you have had narcissistic tendencies, and listening to our conversation has maybe made you reflect on your own habits, and maybe made you aware of if you have narcissism or not. And yeah, you know, if you want to follow up with questions and stuff, feel free to contact her. If you want to volunteer for the podcast as well, so we are building a team. We're trying to make this thing big and build up a real following and a community. So if you want to help out with the publicity side, i.e. social media, please get in touch with us at mentalrootspod@gmail.com. My wonderful friend Jennifer is most likely going to respond through the email. She's kind of my admin at the moment. And then we've got Matt, who's been editing the recent videos, and as well as the audio as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you've got Matt to thank for the visuals, nice silver text and stuff like that. So good job, Matt, if you're watching this. Let's keep building. I want to keep building. Let's make this a community where Mental Roots doesn't necessarily need me all the time in order to keep growing, because I want this to be bigger than me. It would be nice to have a co-host, maybe even multiple hosts who can alternate with different episodes as well. So social media right now is the priority though. If we can get our social media sorted out, then that would be great. And then in the future, maybe even have co-hosts. With that being said, if you want to help out in any other role apart from social media, like co-hosting, like even transcribing into a blog for the podcast, or any other kind of role that you see, you know, could benefit the podcast in any way, again, email us. This is for you, this is for the people. So we want to let you know that you should feel welcome to contribute to this. With all that being said, thank you guys for listening again. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. And quick transition here. There has been an update on the Mental Roots short animated film, which inspired this podcast in the first place. So before this podcast came to be, there was already a short animated film I was working on, focusing on mental health from a black male perspective. If you've been listening to this podcast, you already know this already. If you're not, if you're new, then this is news to you. And this short film, after 9 months of waiting, after handing it to the BBC to release, the BBC are finally releasing it as part of their new creative scheme, and it's coming out in their Introducing Arts program on BBC 4, Sunday the 12th December at 10:30 p.m. GMT. So remember that, put that in your diaries. Of course, there's going to be a link to that, to the website where you can watch the program whilst it's airing and after it's aired, on then the written description for this episode. And of course, follow Mental Roots Podcast at Instagram to see the trailer and to see just more information on this short animation that's coming out. But this is it. This is the moment we've been waiting for. The film that I've worked so hard for about a year and a bit with my amazing staff and team at Rural Media, and some of my friends as well. finally it's coming out. Finally, the world is going to see it before Christmas, before the end of the year. So I'm hyped about that. And yeah, with that being said, by the time the next episode comes out, Mental Roots would have finally been released via the BBC's online platforms and TV. And so after this episode, I'm going to talk a lot more about the process of making that animation, and I might be giving some spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers, then I'll give you a warning if I'm about to give a spoiler on the film in the oncoming episodes. So yeah, once again, thanks for listening, and we are out. For a while now, I've been trying to trace the roots of my mental struggle. I've been trying to trace the roots of my mental struggle. I've been trying to trace the roots of my mental struggle. Trying to trace the roots of my mental struggle. Trace the roots of my mental.